Webinar, okay. Oh, it is recording. All right, I see participants are coming in. Good evening, folks. We're just going to pause here for a moment as participants are joining. We'll get started in just a few moments. The meeting is being recorded. So if you have friends who are unable to join us this evening, or if someone asks you about it, let them know that we'll post the recording to our website. Hopefully by tomorrow, we'll have it posted up there as well. But we're glad to have you with us live this evening. All right. Well, I think we'll get started. Good evening, everyone. My name is Joe Trabolski, and I am the very proud principal of Hillsborough Middle School, and very happy to be welcoming you to what we hope will be the first in perhaps a series of webinars that we would like to offer parents, not only this year, but hopefully in future years as well. If there's any good to come out of our experiences over the last year, we have certainly become much more proficient with our use of technology. And perhaps this is a great way to be able to connect with you at home and share important information with you, and also give you an opportunity to interact with us on issues that you're facing as parents of young adolescents. And we know that's not an easy job either. And we're happy to be a partner with you in that work. Tonight's program is to focus on, I think, what is perhaps one of the next major transitions you're facing in the raising of your children. You know, the first being sending them perhaps off to kindergarten, and then that transition out of elementary school to the intermediate. From Auten to Hillsborough Middle School is a relatively easy transition, kind of a slide over. But now moving up to high school has a number of differences from the experience your kids have had with the team structure at middle school, and we understand that. And so we wanted to be able to share with you a little bit about who we are here that can help support you through the process over the next few months, and also focus on what your kids are going to be hearing in the next few weeks, give you a sense of what they're going to get from us as we begin the transition with them, and then also give you a little bit of a primer for next week's program, which is sponsored by the high school. So Jessica Smedley, who is the director of guidance for our district, school counseling, and the district supervisors for all the departments will join her and the high school administration to give a much more in-depth program about the high school program of studies that covers really all 4 years of their experience in addition to their freshman year. And that's really an important program for you all. And so we thought tonight, in sort of a shorter, more informal format, we could give you a little bit of starter information, help give you a sense of what to expect, and hopefully make next week's program even more meaningful for you if you're able to join them. I think it's going to be at 7 o'clock next Wednesday night, the 26th. And I will send out a follow-up email with the link for that program too later this week, and then again next week when they're ready to go. Tonight, as I mentioned, we are, well, actually, I should say this. I want to also thank our Home and School Association. Part of this series was a bit of a brainchild with the Home and School Association. So my thanks to Jennifer Shepard, current president of the HSA, for helping to put this idea together. And for the next seminar that we hope to offer in February, where we'll focus a little bit on student issues of anxiety and stress, and how to help as parents manage or help your kids manage their stress in life and anxieties that may come up in their teenage years, as well as just general study skills and how to be a good productive student as they move through not only the middle school but the high school as well. So we'll have more information about that program coming up in February. But as I said, tonight is to focus a little bit on the transition from 8th to 9th grade. And joining me this evening are two of our school counselors who work with the 8th grade class. And I'll let them introduce themselves, Mrs. Casagrande and Mrs. Hunkler. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sarah Hunkler. I am the counselor for 8A. 78C, and 7B.
And I'm Amy Casagrande. I'm the counselor for 8B, 8D, and 8E. We want to welcome you and wish you a very happy new year, 2022. I can't believe how fast it's going. And I'm in the same boat as all of you. I have an 8th grade son myself who's transitioning to the high school. So I know it can be very overwhelming and there's a lot of information. So tonight we really just wanted to have a low-key information session, just kind of the basics to help you ease into this process. But you're going to get a lot of help along the way. So just kind of relax and take what you can in. I know there's a lot of you out there who this isn't your first rodeo and you do have kids at the high school already or who've gone through the high school process already. And this is just a good refresher for you. So hopefully you can get something from it, or at least know that you're on the right track and you're on your way. So we want to go to the.
Oh, Mrs. Casagrande, just before you begin, I forgot to mention, I do have the Q&A box open, the question box. So parents, as we go through the program, if a question comes up along the way, feel welcome to put it into the question box or the chat box. And I'll monitor those questions. And hopefully at the end of our program, we can go back to some of those questions and address them as they come up this evening. So feel welcome to throw questions in the box and we'll try to address them that way. And with that, I'll mute myself and go on to the next slide.
Sarah's going to bring the excitement to it.
Yeah. So we know that parents and guardians are feeling a lot of different emotions and feelings about their kids going up to the high school. Mrs. Casagrande kind of talked about maybe like the worrisome parts, am I going to feel prepared? How do I guide my child? Those kinds of questions. But we know a lot of you are also feeling really excited about the independence that your kids are going to get in high school. There's a lot of really great milestones they're going to hit. They're going to be making new friends and joining new clubs and activities. They're going to be driving, which might, again, go to the scary side, maybe not the excitement side, not quite sure yet. Mrs. Casagrande would know more about that. She's been through it with her son. But we want you guys to know that there's a lot of excitement and good stuff ahead, and we're here for you. If you need anything, you reach out to us. We'll answer your questions along the way. And as well as at the high school, there's wonderful school counselors that will be able to guide you and answer questions. So we're all here as a support system and team, and we're here to help. Next slide, please. Thank you.
All right, we wanted to go over some important upcoming dates for you. And again, as you know, this is recorded, so there's no need to take notes. You can refer back to this. But January 21st is when the honors interest form is due. Dr. Rotc did send out an email on how to sign up for that. You can also get it through the HTPS website under the middle school, but that's only in 2 days. So we really encourage all students who want to be considered for honors to fill that out, because it doesn't really mean that you have to take the honors if you do get in, but you do want to be considered for it. On January 26th is the HHS Parent Orientation Program. That's the main show. This is our precursor just to kind of get you warmed up for that. But that, as Dr. T said, is going to be with the Director of Counseling, Jessica Smedley, and all the district supervisors for you to hear about the curriculum and just, the guideline throughout all 4 years will be very helpful. Early February, that's when Mrs. Hunkler and I will be going into the classrooms to talk to the students. Pretty much what you're going to hear tonight is a lot of the same information. It's a little different, but that's when they may come home with some questions. So we're glad to have you here tonight so that you can help guide them through that process too. Late February, that's when the portal will open for you to view the placements, whether they got into honors. And that's when you're going to have the opportunity to enter the elective choices, whether you want a world language difference, you'll get to change that, and we'll talk about that in a couple more slides. And then March 17th, that is a very big day at the middle school. It's so exciting. All the high school counselors, they do come over, they go to the media center, excuse me. The kids get a chance to meet them out of their PE class. And and they go over their elective choices and just kind of their schedule for next year, and to make sure everything is set. So March 17th is a very big day, very exciting. Next
slide. So we really are covering the basics here, starting from the top. Students need 120 credits to graduate from Hillsborough High School. So credits are points awarded when a student completes a class, and there are 2 ways to earn credits for that class. Students need to be attending that class. They can't be absent too many times, and they need to be passing that class. So there are 2 categories of classes: a full year course or a half year course, a 1 semester. In a full year course, a student cannot be absent more than 18 times without losing credit. And in a half year course or 1 semester course, they cannot be absent more than 9 times. Even if they have 100 in the class and they are late or not attending, that can affect their credits. And again, like I said, they have to be passing in order to earn credit for that class. And that's news to some kids. They don't really understand how that works. So we really try to go over that with them when we go into the classrooms and talk with them, because it's kind of like a light bulb moment, like, oh, even if I'm doing well, I can't be late. I can't roll in to first period like halfway through. No, you can't. Be on time.
And obviously you need 120 credits to graduate, but you can't just take anything you want and have it add up to 120. You know, New Jersey has specific laws as to what you need. So just to briefly go over those, they are going to take 4 years of English. So your child's going to have, English 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. They're going to have 4 years of PE and health. That's state mandated. So that will be consistent on their schedule all 4 years. And then the rest of them is where it can vary, where there's not a 4-year requirement. So you're going to be able to see by that 4th year, you're going to have a lot of different options and choices. So they need 3 years of history only. Next year, they'll take world history. And then the following sophomore and junior years will take US history. They'll have 3 years of math. That's necessary. 3 years of science. Number 6, it says 1 year of a world language, but we want to stress, and we do stress to the kids, that that is a minimum. That is a requirement to graduate, but colleges are looking for really a minimum of 2 years. But 3 or 4, if they can manage it, the more, the better. But 2 years is definitely what the minimum goal would be for a college-bound student. Number 7 and 8, those are the mandatory electives. So you need 1 year of a visual and performing art elective and 1 year of a career education, consumer, family, and life skills elective. And that's 1 year total you have to take until you graduate. So you have the kids have 4 years to do that requirement. And we're going to get into what those electives are and how to kind of pick them out in a little bit. And then the last requirement is a class called financial literacy. It is a semester course, so it's a half-year course. That's mandatory. But there are some students who choose to take an economics course instead, which is a year-long course. Much harder, but if your child's into economics, whether it's micro or macroeconomics, they can choose to take that course instead. That would meet that requirement of the financial literacy. So, all right, next slide.
So we were just talking earlier about being at class on time. And so if you look at the bell schedule for the high school, you can see that it starts early. And another kind of light bulb moment for the kids that we have to go over with them, period 1 starts at 7:30. So if in August they're used to sleeping until like 11 o'clock in the morning.
11, that's early.
Is that early?
It's still early.
11:30, 12, whatever time your morning starts. We encourage the kids, start setting an alarm a little bit earlier those last couple weeks of August to get your body not such a shock to the system when you have to set that alarm early for the bus. So period 1 starts at 7:30 and Period 2 at the beginning, they will do the pledge and attendance, and that's to accommodate for the late arrivals. They have this year, because of COVID, and the schedule has changed due to COVID for lunches. They have 3 lunch periods, period 4, 6, and 8, and they're calling that lunch 1, 2, and 3. And that's space in between is just to sanitize and clean between lunches. So we think that that's going to continue for next year, but we know in this pandemic and COVID, things are subject to change. So we'll see what happens next year. And there's 10 periods in a day. 10th period ends at 2:25. So your kids will have time to join clubs or activities after school. They can get to their sports, or if they want to work and earn some money, they can get a job after school as well. Lots of flexibility in the afternoon. Next slide.
All right, so even though there are 10 periods in a day, there are only 7 classes and a lunch that your child's going to have. So I don't know if you noticed on the past slide, there were some that were like a period 4 or 5. So some periods are combined together. But basically what you need to know is that they will have 7 classes, okay, every year. So they'll have an English class every year. World history they'll have for next year, and then the following 2 years. They'll have a math class next year, whether it be Algebra 1, that's the lower level, the lowest level offered at the high school. So if your child's not in Algebra 1, that's where they will be next year. If they're in Algebra 1 this year, they'll go to geometry. If they're in geometry, they'll go to Algebra 2. Science, a lot of different science choices, environmental science, biology, or chemistry. And really the way that it works at the high school is the math placement comes first, and then the science placement comes after that. So based on where your child is placed in math, that's where they'll be placed in the science level. Their 5th class will be a world language. They'll be able to continue in the language that they're in right now, whether French, German, Italian, Chinese, or Spanish. And they'll be taking a placement test in the spring to determine what level they'd be recommended for the high school. So they might be recommended for level 2, level 3 if they're extraordinary, or if they're still really need the basics, they'll be recommended for a level 1. But the kids love that they have the opportunity to change. So there's some kids who have been locked into this language for a few years now who kind of regret it. So they do have opportunities to change. So they have the same languages that we have at the middle school. Like I said, Spanish, French, Italian, German, Chinese. But there are some other opportunities that a lot of kids take advantage of. One of them is Latin, and the other one is American Sign Language. And then there is another course that's called Spanish for Spanish speakers. That's strictly for kids who can speak, read, and talk in Spanish. So that's a new opportunity for them too. A 6th course they're going to have is their PE and health. They look forward to having driver's ed. I know that's scary for us parents, but they love it. So that's something exciting coming up. And then their last class is room for an elective. Okay, so that's where they're going to take one of the required electives out of the categories, which will come up in a minute. And then of course they'll have a lunch. So 7 classes of the lunch is what they'll have for the next 4 years. All right, next.
So we get this question from students and parents and guardians every year if they can take classes this summer in their 8th grade summer before 9th grade. The answer to that is no. Classes taken before your freshman year will not count towards credit for high school. You must be enrolled as a student at HHS for credits to count. So this summer, students can just relax, look forward to high school, and then after your 9th grade year, if you wanted to take classes for credit that summer and moving forward, you can, but no credits will count towards Hillsborough High School until these students are enrolled.
Sarah, could I interrupt though, and just while we're on this slide here, and just see if we can address one question that is popping up related to this topic. So you made it clear that the credits don't count to any class they might take this summer, but is it possible to take courses between now and their freshman year that could lead to advancement. So, and I don't know if we know the answer to this question, it might be a question to pose for next week. If they took geometry this summer, for example, could they start with algebra, even though those geometry credits wouldn't count towards their 120, could they still advance into the next level course if they were successful in that? Is there a process? Is that allowed? Is there even a process for that? Do we know?
No, unfortunately, they have to be taken at Hillsborough High School because it is a New Jersey requirement. There is, though, in the past years, I'm not sure if they're going to offer it this summer, but only those who are recommended for geometry honors. There has been a course that's been run in the previous summers with a fee at Hillsborough High School that some students have taken advantage of. I hesitate to even say this, to be honest, because I'm not sure what they're
Going
going
there, she's saying.
but it has been offered in the past. That would be the only exception.
Okay.
The only exception to that would be if they did take that geometry honors at Hillsborough High School, that would count towards that.
That's
And we
fine.
think they'll
And
address that next week.
I was going to say to parents who have that question or who are thinking about that, look for that information next week in the program offered by the high school. I'm sure they'll address that particular issue in more detail. So, and then we'll also try to get a clear picture from what. Thank you.
All right, these are the two categories for the mandatory electives. So again, they have 4 years to fulfill this. So on the left box, you'll see career education, consumer, family, and life skills requirement. And that just simply says students must take 5 credits from this category before they graduate. I'm not sure if we touched upon this, but full year courses are, the majority of them are worth 5 credits. Excluding the labs. When you have science labs, you get a credit or 2 more because you have the lab component, but most of them are 5 credits. So if a child picks elective from that category, that's a full year course, then that's going to be the 5 credits. That's going to be what they need in order to graduate. Of course, kids can have more, but that's just the minimum. If they choose semester courses, which the majority of them are semester courses, they would need to have 2 of them from that category in order to graduate. So again, you have 4 years. And then the right box just simply says the visual and performing arts requirement. It's the same thing. But Dr. T, if you can click on, and then there's financial literacy, which I touched upon, but if you can click on the freshman electives, just so the parents can kind of see. This is from what's called the Program of Studies, and you're going to learn all about this even next Wednesday at the high school presentation. But on here are a list of the freshman electives, which is great because what the high school did was they kind of teased out what freshmen can take versus, there's some electives that are only open to starting at 10th grade, like law, for example. That's a course you can only take not your freshman year, but starting 10th grade. So a bunch of different electives. It's on the Program of Studies. There's links to it everywhere. You'll learn about it next week. But that's really where the kids are going to get their choices from and select them. And then there's some that have, as it's right there, some that have prerequisites that's required. Freshmen are still allowed to take classes that have prerequisites if they take what's needed the first half of the year, which Sarah's going to explain on the next slide a little bit better for you to understand.
Okay, so let me see if I can get to back to our, oops, I'm sorry. That's not what I wanted to show. So sorry.
I see the third tab.
We made some IT issues for you now, Dr. T.
I can't see my tabs here. Yes, exactly. Hold on. Come on. I can't get to my tabs. Hold on.
We can see it. It's right in the middle.
I know you can see it, but
There you
there's
go. Oh, yeah.
for some reason
There. Click right there. There you go.
there's a
got it.
bar over mine on my screen that I could not get off, but there we go. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay.
So like Mrs. Casagrande said, some of the classes have prerequisites. So it's important that when the students are looking over these elective choices, they really read about the class in the program of studies. And parents and guardians, you should do this too with your kids. So this example we have up here, just so you know how to read it, the title is at the top, it's baking. This is one of the elective choices. It's worth 2.5 credits. It's a 1 semester course, so a half-year course. It's open to grade levels 9 through 12. And right under there, you can see it has a prerequisite. So that's something that the student needs to take before they can take baking. This one is Intro to Culinary Arts and Baking. So underneath that, there'll be a little blurb, a summary of the class. And that's really important too for students to know that this is the class that they are interested in taking. Sometimes by the title, maybe they think it's what they want, but it might not be once they read about it. For example, if you're looking at photography, students might say, oh, photography, I'll just be taking some pictures with my iPhone of my friends, which is great. Sure, you can take pictures, but photography at the high school is old school photography, going into a dark room and developing film with an old school camera, if they even know what that means. So they want to make sure that they read about that and they understand that the class is what they think it is. Okay, so make sure you look through that program of studies and where that link was with the whole list, make sure you're searching for those classes so you know what you want to take.
And there is digital photography. That's the class that a lot of kids want to take that use their iPhones or.
But I think they still use digital cameras, which kids probably aren't so familiar with either. So it's interesting, but it's a lot of options.
All right, electives. The students have to choose between 8 and 10 elective choices, which I know sounds like a lot, which it is, because at most they only have 1 period of an elective. So either 1 full year course or 2 semester courses, but they have the kids choose in order of preference which ones they'd like to take. You know, as scheduling occurs, the seniors get first dibs, of course, because they need to graduate. So we need to get them, you know, what they need to have. And freshmen are kind of last on the list. So there could be courses that are closed, or your child may need such specific courses that they can only fit, you know, a certain elective in a certain period. So there's just many different variables. So they have them choose 8 to 10. They need to be put into Genesis by March 17th by 8 a.m. That's when the high school counselors are going to be coming over to talk with them. So you want to make sure your child does have that done, because you don't want them to go into that media center and meet their high school counselor with you know, an empty screen. So make sure you help them out with that. That's it. Dr. T will be sending out directions as to how to exactly do that. So no worries about that. Those instructions will come, and they're pretty simple. All right.
If a student wants to select for their elective choice band, chorus, or orchestra, they must also put it into Genesis, as well as if the teacher recommends it. So even if that band, orchestra, chorus teacher puts in that they're recommending it, we want the student to also put it in, because what happens is the high school counselor, when they go to want to schedule them or look at their choices, if they don't see that the student has also selected it, they may think only the teacher wants it and the kid does not. So make sure that the student also puts that in as a choice.
All right, some important points to keep in mind, but I do want to say this to put you at ease. You have been through with your child with so many different schools right now, and now they're moving to the high school. There's going to be a lot more consistencies. They're going to have the same high school counselor for the next 4 years, which is going to be so helpful, because they're going to really get to know your child as a freshman all the way up till senior year. They're going to help them with scheduling, what those requirements are. They're going to be able to help write letters of recommendations, and it's high school's a big deal. So you're going to have someone consistent who you're going to get to know, your child's going to get to know for the next 4 years to help you out. So the important points, though, directions, like I said, and to input electives will be sent out. when the portal is open to view the placements. Any questions that you have about placement recommendations, because this process is going to be going on for the next couple of months. All right. So it's not like just today or next week or when that portal opens. There could be changes at any time. So when those recommendations come out, and if your child is not recommended for an honors course, but they perhaps were borderline, they can be reconsidered. So there will be directions as to how to reach out to the teacher to ask questions, or the case manager if your child happens to have an IEP, or the district supervisors. They'll be able to put them on a reconsideration list for them to look at towards the end of the year to see if there is a change. And then finally, I just said that. They can be updated in June. I went ahead. So encourage students, they can work hard third and fourth marking period to get those grades up or on par as to what the honors classes are looking for, so that they can be reconsidered. So it's a process.
Thanks, guys. So there are a lot of great questions have been popping up in the forum here. So I'm going to try to throw some of those questions out here to our group and see. Some of them I thought I might be able to answer, but then I was like, I better leave it to the experts here. So let me back up. This was an interesting question about, you mentioned the financial literacy class. And I think that's what this person was referring to about, is that class a basic micro macro course, or is it higher level honors AP class? Is it something they take their senior year? Do you know a little bit more about what the financial literacy?
It's a basic level class. Talks about all the different basic finances. You know, no one wants their kids to go into debt when they turn 18 and they can open up their first credit card and just go like crazy, you know. So it's pretty basic.
And that's for all kids. Everybody has to take that.
Everyone has to take it. They really try to recommend it in 9th grade to take it, to kind of get it out of the way. But some kids like to take more fun courses their first year and hold off to 10th grade. But no, it's a basic course. And
then, of course,
read about it in the program of studies too. It talks about exactly what's in that course.
And the program of studies is available even now up on the high school website. They're still making some refinements and adjustments to it. So the final edition for next year is not complete. But most of the things that apply to freshmen, there really shouldn't be many changes at all to the freshman course offerings. Sometimes there are other things that are offered at the senior level or the upperclassmen level. But if you take a look at it, it'll give you a good perspective now, and then it'll probably be updated by the end of this month with any additions. On the issue of world language, an individual asked about if a student takes, let's say, Italian 2, does that count for their 2 years if they, of Italian at the high school level, or do they still have to take 2 full years?
2 full years, yeah. College is really, they really want kids to go the highest level they can. So they encourage as many years as your kids can put in, but no, that's considered just 1 year at level 2. So they would need to go to a minimum Italian 3.
And for the Spanish, for Spanish speakers, is there a particular process for being placed into that course? Or for those who are in Spanish, the Spanish teachers make recommendations to Sarah Honkler and I for that course. There's other students though who are in other languages, like French, for example, who want that opportunity too. So we do mention that in when we go into the classrooms in February, if there's anyone in there who would like to talk more about it or learn more about it, to come see us. And what we do is really just an interview process with the Spanish for Spanish speaker teacher at the high school. We set up a meet and greet online, virtually, and she'll have communications with them, see what their oral skills are, to see if they're an appropriate fit. Thank you. Here's an interesting question. I think I know the answer to this, but you can probably elaborate as well. It was asking is chemistry can be an elective course, and my sense is that's not an elective, but is there such a thing as doubling up if a student is particularly if they go through their upper grade years, instead of choosing from those other electives that they can choose to double up with courses? Is that something that happens at all?
Should we take this?
I'm just figuring that you're going to, but, and again, this is something that the supervisors will probably discuss next week as well, but Amy, you can go ahead.
I do know that for those students who are in geometry currently, who are will be recommended for Algebra 2 for 9th grade, they'll also be recommended for a chemistry course. And some of those students choose to also take biology. It's in the space of their elective, so they won't get an elective. It's not counted as an elective, it's 2 sciences, but it's just in place of that elective course that you would have. They could double up in that science. That's of course Lisa Keel is the science supervisor, so you should definitely hear more about that next Wednesday too. But that is really the only option for students for doubling up in science.
There are a couple questions about prerequisites. And so the term prerequisite about, how do the kids take the prerequisites? So when parents, when you look at the program of studies, if your child sees a course that they like and it says there's a prerequisite, basically what that's telling you is look in the program of studies for the course that precedes that. And that's the course they need to take first before they take that. And they earn credits for those courses. They all count. It's just that, before you can take, the advanced course, you need sometimes to take the beginner class in whatever it might be, or whatever precedes it.
Mm-hmm.
So just look for that, but they all count for credit. They're all part of the high school program towards their 120 credits. It's just that some things have to be taken in order, and they will earn credit for those. One person asked, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like what the screen Mrs. Hunkler was talking about with the baking. The prerequisite was introduction to culinary arts and baking. So for example, those kids would have to sign up for that course, and they can have that first semester, their 9th grade, which then would unlock that baking course for 2nd semester. So that's why that would enable them to take a prerequisite, but they have to take that first course first semester. And the high school counselors understand that.
Is it possible to select an elective and not get in? Probably yes, right? That's why they're going to choose more electives than they're actually going to use, because some will be shut out and they may not get their first choice or second choice even, right?
Yep.
So there was another question I know that pertained to what happens if they want to apply for part-time at the Rotc? I guess we just touch about that a little bit. How does that work if part-time for Rotc?
So if they're part-time at Rotc, they'll take their technical classes at Rotc and the academics at Hillsborough High School. But if you want to know more about the Rotc, they have an open house coming up on February 5th. So if you go on the website, any of those Rotc questions, you really should attend that open house to get more information about that. And there's also the video up on the website if you missed that information session last week. So all of that, if you have questions and you want to reach out to us in email, I can send out a link if you missed the information session, but definitely Rotc questions, attend that open house.
But basically what they're going to tell you is that if you're shared time, that's what it's officially called, shared time. You're going to talk with your high school counselor to talk about what classes they can fit in the time frame that your child is at Hillsborough High School. So that's something that you'll communicate with the counselor at the high school to kind of have a conversation about, to see what those options are.
Here's a couple questions with regard to children with special needs. So you mentioned IEP, which is an individual education plan. So students who have special needs and individual education plan, one parent asked, how does the process work for them as they go up to the high school? And I imagine it's maybe with regard to their course selections. And if I'm not incorrect here, that the case managers, rather than the counselors, they're here this evening, but they're case managers, one of the members of our child study team, will prepare their program of studies or their course recommendations and enter that into Genesis for them. So they're probably having consultations with you as you have IEP review meetings, and then making those course recommendations for your children.
Exactly.
But they could still select electives if they wish, though, correct?
Yeah, there's some options for them. Obviously it's individualized, but if your child is scheduled for a study skills class through an IEP, through special education, sometimes that does take the spot of that elective. But there's different options. If your child has never had a world language, for example, they may want to hold off until 10th grade to take that world language so that they can fit not only their study skills, but an elective also. So there's different variations of what can happen. But there's annual meetings that the child study team case managers do hold with the parents. So a lot of that has been discussed. If not, you may have a meeting coming up. And if you've already had a meeting a while ago and it wasn't discussed, we recommend definitely calling your case manager to get some more information on that.
And there's time. You don't have to do that tomorrow, but
Plenty of time, maybe until June.
Right,
It's all set.
right, precisely. You can
No
you can
rush.
work that up through June,
Yep.
certainly over the next month or so. But thank you for that advice. That addressed a couple of questions that were along those lines. I know there's a question about what are the AP offerings. It's probably too long for us to list all the advanced placement kinds of courses that typically students take by the time they get to their junior or senior year. If you go to the program of studies at the high school, or again next week when the high school presents, they'll within each of the departments, I'm sure they'll touch on what advanced placement level courses they have for upperclassmen, and you can see all that in the program of studies, and you'll be able to see the sequence of what students need to take in order to be eligible for those what are essentially college credit level courses that they can take in their high school years if they wish to get.
Thanks for bringing that up, because the high school, they really, and we do too, we really recommend you mapping out those 4 years for your child, which could be edited and changed all along the way. But just if there is a class like an AP course, for example, that your child definitely wants to take before they graduate, what precedes it? What do they need before that, so that you can make sure that your child gets those prerequisites courses in before they're able to unlock the AP. So they do recommend making kind of a 4-year map to see where your child may go, which is, like I said, editable.
And there's a template on the program of studies for that, mapping out that 4 years. So if you look in the program of studies, you can find that just as a good table and template for the parents to use.
And you'll see on next Wednesday, they'll go over the course sequences. So you'll know which classes come before the others. So that will be helpful next week too.
Yeah, don't feel overwhelmed if you look at it before next week. You know, it might feel overwhelming as you go through next week's program next Wednesday night. That'll help bring it a clearer focus for you and also address questions you might have.
Tonight's just a head start. That's right.
That's right. We don't want you to get
You're ahead of the game just by coming tonight.
That's right. Question just about the language, the difference between the term CP and honors. Sarah, do you want to just explain what the difference is CP and honors?
CP is college prep, so that's the standard course that colleges are looking for. And honors would just be like more advanced, right? So just like how we have at the middle school, like advanced literacy, honors would be that step above, and CP is the more standard level. And the more particulars about weight and how those things work, the supervisors will go over in more detail next week too. That's the basics answer.
Thank you. Here's a good general question. This is something that distinguishes high school years from any other year. Will elective classes have a mix of students? And I assume they mean a mix of age of students, or will there only be freshmen in the freshman electives?
No, that could be anybody. It could be seniors. They could be sitting next to older kids. And so they'll meet all kinds of grades in their classes, which is really exciting for them because they'll get to see their friends that aren't necessarily in their grade in their elective courses. Some kids might be a little nervous about that, but hopefully they'll be mostly excited.
To that question too, there's another follow-up question that asks about how do they know which classes are college prep, but I think they're designated CP. So that language CP refers to college prep level courses as opposed to more generalized courses to just about anybody. And honors are so labeled as with an H for honors courses. And then AP is advanced placement, and that's referring to those college level, college board courses that have a particular curriculum and a potential assessment at the end if your child wishes to take that assessment for possible college credit. So that's the difference between AP versus CP, which are college prep, which is just a general high school term for preparation for college course. Can a student take a language like Italian and then also have a second language like Latin or sign language as an elective?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That's a good question. And then we're doing okay on time. We'll continue to take a few more questions here. So as I'm looking over, there's a question here. I'm going to try to read the question just so I'm getting it clear. I have a question about the minimum 120 credits. It seems every year or semester there's room for maybe one elective. Is my understanding correct that the credits associated with electives are the only reason that will make a difference to the total credit a student would have earned in 4 years?
I don't understand that question either, but let me just say this, that they're going to have 7 courses. So those 7 courses are going to be 5 credits each. So your child's going to take 35 credits a year, not including labs. So they might even have 36 or 37. So potentially they're going to graduate with 140 credits, more or less, depending on your child. So 120, everyone's going to reach that 120. That's just to get that cap and gown to throw up in the air and, get some party. Hopefully, relatives give them some money or something, but they're all going to reach that 120, no problem. So electives are just, like I was saying before, there's some mandatory courses where 4 years of English, 4 years of PE, but then that's when it dwindles with the other curriculum courses like the science, the social studies, and math. You only need 3 years. So that 4th year, you have so many openings and options. A lot of kids are going to choose to continue in their science and math for all 4 years. But the electives, as time goes on, they may choose to take more or less electives. They may choose more electives to kind of, electives are great to get to know who you are, what your passions are, what you like, what you're interested in. Is this something I want a career in, or is this no way, it's just going to be just a hobby. But by that last year, there's so many options. So I'm not sure I answered that question, but they're going to have way more credits than 120 at graduation than they need. So there's options galore.
No, thank you. And that actually addressed a couple other people's similar type of question along those lines. I'm going to try to combine a couple of questions too that ask about, and maybe once they're in the high school, we talked about how they can't take courses prior to starting in September that would count towards their college, to their high school credit. But once they're in high school, as they go through the 4 years, can they take courses outside of Hillsborough High School that would count for credit? Is there any volunteer work or independent study work that would count for credit? Are these things that are part of the high school program? And if so, how does that work? Not for freshmen, but for as they move up.
Amy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that they can, but they have to make sure that it coincides with Hillsborough High School accepting those credits from that place. So I think they have to just check that it's all correlated before they go and pay money to take that course. They want to know that Hillsborough High School is going to accept it.
And by check, I think you mean, do you want to confirm with the counselor at the high school and
Correct.
the supervisor of that department? So if you wanted to take, let's say, a math course at another high school in the summer between your sophomore and junior year, you want to talk to the counselor at the high school, you want to talk to the supervisor of that department and make sure that they're both on board, that will count towards credit.
You definitely need permission, absolutely, and you need a certain grade at the end to get credit for it. And if you go on to HTTPS to our website and you go to Hillsborough High School, under departments, you'll see counseling. They'll have a category under there. I forget what it's labeled, but like summer school, summer enrichment, So we encourage you, play around. Like, this is going to be your school for the next 4 years. So play around, go there. You'll see all the different options of schools like Rutgers Prep, who has classes you can take, or there's some online courses from EduShare that you can take, but definitely get permission. Absolutely. And independent study, they do have independent study. Honestly, I can't speak intelligently about it. I'm not sure how it exactly works, but I do know that it does exist.
That's okay. And again, that your child shouldn't be doing independent study freshman year. So once they get settled in high school, that's something to be considering for, as they move through, but you can look for that up there. Listen, person asked the question, said, you mentioned there are 10 periods, but you only spoke to 8. What are the other 2? And that's probably because of the way the lunches and the overlap work. So theoretically, there are 10 periods on paper, but there's actually only 8. I don't even know if I'm explaining that correctly.
Because of the half periods.
Yeah,
There's
so there's
how many
half periods in the
lunches.
way lunches are placed, depending on which lunch you have and how, because the lunches are not a full period. Is that correct?
Right, like it goes 4, 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8. So that's why it's off.
Yeah. So I think some of these other questions look like we've kind of addressed as best we could, or that what we can address here this evening. And again, people are really thinking forward to their senior year. If a student has gotten to the bulk of their credits and they have some room in their schedule, do they need to attend the full day in their senior year, or can they just come in for the courses that they need and leave early? Is that something that happens at the high school in their senior year?
Yeah, they have that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can even graduate early. You can graduate, early if you have enough credits. There's so many different options, but I just recommend to enjoy the journey right now. Enjoy 8th grade. It's gonna go fast.
I know Amy knows.
I know.
You've got a successful college kid.
I have 2 sons. One graduated high school this past year, and one's going to be in high school next year. It goes fast.
Don't tell.
Has anyone, that's a great question. Has anyone from Hillsborough High School gotten into Ivy League schools?
Oh, definitely.
You
Sure.
betcha they have.
Oh, definitely. All of them. They've gone into all of them.
And for what it's worth, from Raritan Valley Community College right through Harvard or Princeton or whatever, there's wonderful schools out there. The most important thing is to find the right fit for your child and their program and their interests, whether it's small or big, Ivy or community college to start. And I've seen so many kids now who came through here as middle schoolers, went through Hillsborough High School, went off to all sorts of both college, career, or into U.S. services. And they're all living wonderful lives. So there's so many different paths that kids can take towards their success. And some of that involves part-time Hillsborough High School and part-time Rotc. And again, of course, we're talking a lot about Hillsborough High School, but if any parent out there is considering a private school or something else for high school, we're going to prepare every student for transition to Hillsborough High School until such time as it's certain where they may be going, if not to Hillsborough High School, but they'll always have the option for Hillsborough High School. We want to make sure that's there for them, for all kids that we have here.
I know of a question that comes up a lot. A lot of parents who have kids who have applied to Rotc, you won't know whether your child got into Rotc until after this high school process has completed. So they're going to meet March 17th with their high school counselors as if they're going to Hillsborough High School. And then if they do get accepted into Rotc, that gets adjusted afterwards. Or if they decide they do want to go to a private high school, that's all gets taken care of afterwards. So, so we just move forward as if your child is going to Hillsborough High School.
Fantastic. Oh, does the high school have an ROTC program? Since I mentioned the U.S. Armed Services, do we have ROTC at the high school?
I don't know.
Sure.
I think so. I'm afraid to. I think so. I don't honestly know.
Oh, I just got the answer. So
We do not.
Mrs. Smedley is on
Yeah.
on our thing. She's not on our panel here, but our director of school counseling. We do not have an ROTC program at the high school at present.
No wonder we haven't heard of it.
Yeah. And in terms of what colleges students go to, really, it runs the full gamut, doesn't it? I mean, they go all over the United States to just about every possible institution you can think of. We probably have sent students from Hillsborough High School too. So yeah, it runs the full gamut. And so who enters the electives into Genesis? That's going to be entered in, we'll leave it maybe on there. So that's going to be entered by the parents or the student, right?
Yeah, the parents and students will enter that in. Directions will be given out with, screenshots and, visuals for you to follow along as to how to exactly do that. So, yep, that's something that you're going to do.
And that'll come really towards the end of February, the early part of March, when you'll be able to do that. So in between then and now and then, the counselors are going to go in. They're going to go into, I think, the science classes. Is that what you're going into?
Majority. Yeah.
Yeah. So they'll go into the class so that all students.
The first week of February, we'll be in.
First week in February, early February, they'll be going in, talking to all the 8th graders, going over what they went over with you, talking about the program of studies, giving them the link to see that on the high school website, which should be complete by then. And then they'll be able to talk with you about that, and then pick some electives. So you have the month of February to talk with your 8th grader about some of the elective choices, what their interests might be, and what their core program will look like after you've, again, seen the high school's program next Wednesday night as well. So you'll be fully informed and be able to have good conversation with them and be able to get questions answered as well. Feel welcome to, if we didn't address your question tonight, to be able to reach out to one of the counselors here anytime during the month of February, and they'll be able to get back to you on that and help to guide you along. And then, like I said, the portal will open towards the end of February, early part of March. And at that point, you'll be able to then go in, see what the recommended placements have been for their core program, and then enter in the elective choices. And then, as Mrs. Casagrande said, around March 17, the high school counselors will come over. They'll meet with every single student just to make a confirmation. Does this look right to you? Did you have any last minute questions? And if they see something that's not quite right, or if a question comes up, no, that's why we've got April and May for them to follow up and address those questions or make any adjustments, and then to try to have everything settled by the end of the school year so that they can get busy with scheduling for next year with all the kids. And then there'll be orientation programs in the summer for freshmen, as well as for you as parents at the high school leading up to the start of the new school year at Hillsborough High School. So with that, I'm going to bring our program tonight to a close. I want to thank Sarah Hunkler and Amy Casagrande, our 2 counselors, for joining us tonight, presenting. Both of you guys did a great job. Thank you so very much. And thank all of you for joining us this evening. I hope this has been helpful to you. And we look forward to having you with us for some other presentations we go through this year. And then if there are any 7th grade parents, continue with us next year as well. Okay. And this recording will go up on our website for anyone who wasn't here tonight, so that any friend of yours who might have missed it know that we'll have this posted. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.